Whenever I introduce this lifestyle to a new group, the most common question that I always receive is, what in the world are we going to eat besides twigs and berries and grass? The preconceived notions about how limiting this lifestyle are so incredibly erroneous. In Pittsburgh, we gave our participants in the Heart of a Hero campaign an in-depth rundown of what to eat in a day. And today, you're going to get a primer on what to eat directly from the mother source, my mother source. In fact, who better to whip up some culinary creativity than my mother, Ann Crile Esselstyn, and my sister, Jane Hallie Esselstyn. Together, they have amassed thousands of followers on YouTube that get to share a front row seat to their playful antics in Jane's actual kitchen. And they give their audience the confidence to roll up their sleeves and try all kinds of new things. Jane and Ann have become absolute experts on healthy plant-based cooking, and there isn't a plant they aren't afraid to try. True story, my mother once pulled some green leafy weeds from her garden, cooked them up as a side dish to their meal, and both my mother and father got deathly ill soon thereafter. They looked it up, and this particular weed was deathly toxic, but the good news is they were able to recover and live to eat many more green leafies. And suffice it to say, Ann is a lot more cautious now when she is picking green leafies from her garden. I want you to prepare to be inspired by two people who deeply inspire me, my mother, Ann, and my sister, Jane. Okay, I am here with Ann Esselstyn and Jane Esselstyn. We had Ann on season 1 of the Plant Strong podcast, but surprisingly, this is the first time that I've had Jane on, and I thought it would be appropriate that when I had Jane on to also have Ann on, because you guys are almost like Tweedledee and Tweedledum in many ways. And it's amazing to me to see how you guys have become almost like best friends, like over the last couple of years. And I just love to hear it from each of you. Like, how would you describe your relationship?
No, well, we're next door neighbors, and we're working partners at times, and my parents, so they're next door, and I feel so lucky when they were doling out parents that somehow I got Ann and Essie as my parents. Like, what are the chances and what luck? And then to be next door to them and to work with them is just amazing. So I don't know how, it's weird to categorize parental-child relationship as best friendsy, but we are totally companions.
The luckiest thing was when you guys moved next door. That was just incredible.
It's the way it should be.
And to have your children grow up, and we can watch them, pick them up at school. It's been fantastic.
And cheer them on at swim meets.
But Jane, the best part is when Jane was cooking and making all the recipes for your 3 books, Rip. Essie and I were the recipients of so many meals that I didn't have to cook for the longest time. All right.
It's funny what a gift that is when someone cooks for you.
God,
it is funny
so
what a gift it is.
Well, and so for people that don't know, Jane spearheaded the recipe sections in my last 3 books. So Plant Strong, then the Engine 2 7-Day Rescue, and then the Engine 2 Cookbook.
It's funny. I thought there were 2 books, and I was like, wait, 3? Yeah. But I forgot. I don't know what I was wrong.
Yeah, there were 3.
Well, there's 7.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there's 3.
And
we did our book together.
Yeah.
Which was great.
And
Reverse Heart Disease Cookbook.
Actually, without Jane, I would just not be doing anything because she is the leader. She has the ideas.
It is so funny to hear you say that because that's so not true. Yes, I do logistics. I type things up. I write, we need this, but we need this, we need this. Let's do this, this, this. And you're like, oh, Jane, that's too much. And then once we start, you just run with it and you hijack the whole show.
Well, and so when you say the show, and a lot of the listeners may or may not know, but Jane, probably what, 2 years ago now, you started
Exactly
a
2 years
YouTube
ago, I
channel,
think.
right?
Exactly 2
You
years.
started a YouTube channel, and it's basically it's you and Ann that are on every episode, doing something different, usually related to cooking, right?
Yeah, well, plant perfect and plant strong stuff.
And the first time Jane had me go over, she we were going to do our guidelines, and I just stood there like I was totally like I didn't want to be there. I didn't know why I was there.
There was no classroom or participants or
it was
people
like
to talk to.
horrible. So, and now it's kind of fun.
Yeah, if you want to laugh, go back to the first of our YouTubes and look at how she was grumpy pants.
Well, how many different YouTube shows have you done now?
You mean videos?
Yeah.
Gosh, what have we done, Mommy? I think
We don't
70.
know.
70?
But Rip, let me tell you something absolutely crazy. Now, Essie has been the spearhead of all of this for all of us. I mean, he is the reason,
the pioneer. Yeah,
the pioneer. I mean, he's behind it all. And now, when we travel and we go places, I mean, even when we go to places like Denmark or Iceland, I cannot believe the number of people that come up to me and say, "Oh, I love your videos." And Essie's standing right there beside me, and I'm feeling, well, I'm just about as well known as you now.
The line of people to talk to me is as long as the line to talk to Essie.
And what to me is so perfect about it is when I go back, when we started doing our weekend events, back going now, gosh, 7-8 years ago, and you two would do your cooking demonstrations, and people would come up. I know they come up to you, but they'd also come up to me and say, your mother and your sister need to have their own cooking show. They're a hoot. They are so educational. They are amazing. And now you guys also, you have your own show, right?
Yeah, for years we were waiting for someone to say, hey, we design cooking shows.
You were waiting for that. Not me.
Well, I didn't know what to think would happen. I mean, we just sort of waited and then.
And what's this cooking show called now that you have, besides your YouTube channel?
GE Appliances, which is a company, which is part of a company called Haier, H-A-I-E-R. Mm-hmm. They're an innovative
researchers
group or company, and they were looking for the next new thing to do, with the internet. So they saw that we had high engagement numbers.
Yeah.
And they were like most of the comments were positive. There's plenty of people who have negative things to say, which is fine. And
fortunately,
so they
since I don't even know how to get on the internet to that, I don't know what the negative comments are.
So this branch of GE Appliances owned by Haier approached us and said, hey, we have this company called Cooking with Chibo, and you can cook live. And people who sign up to take this class with you will get a grocery list, and they'll cook live with you at a set time on a set date, and it's like a nice dinner together. We cook it's almost about an hour plus of cooking, hour and a half of cooking, and plenty of time just talking and explaining or answering questions.
First time we did it, they flew us down to Louisville to one of their test kitchen types things, which just happened to be in a little old house. Anyway,
but now we're doing it from our home, which is
that's nice.
Which is nicer for us, just convenient wise. But we'll see. We hope to continue with them. Doing occasional shows.
So you guys have both been immersed in this plant strong lifestyle for decades. Ann, you and Essie started this in 1984. Jane, I would imagine early 1990s, if not sooner. But my point is, you've been doing it. You've made it work. In your busy lives, kids, what advice would you give to somebody as far as what do you do to prepare for each week? Do you batch cook on Sundays? Do you make a dressing that you can then have for salads the rest of the week? What are just a couple little tips you'd give for somebody?
Jane, you go.
Oh, it's so funny. I was gonna be like, Mommy's gonna want to go first because as soon as I start, she's gonna chime in and say, "Oh no."
Well, it's perfectly appropriate.
So what I want to probably say is that, first of all, I've heard what Rip, how you explain it often is we would not be able to eat this way if it wasn't just drop dead simple. Because it is. And we wouldn't be able to maintain eating this way for decades and decades and decades if it wasn't just simple. And I guess once we've identified the difficult to cook things, which basically only means the time consuming things, once you have that down, it is so easy to eat and cook this way. I'm going to use the wrong word. I overcook. I don't mean cook too long. I mean, I over prepare whenever I'm making brown rice, or if I'm ever making pasta or potatoes or sweet potatoes or any grain or quinoa. And when I'm making a sauce, to go with this stuff, from red sauce to a walnut sauce to a peanut sauce to a lo mein noodle sauce, whatever I'm making, I make way more sauce than I need, so that those extra difficult, time-consuming things to make are prepared. And for me, that makes a difference with kids, because the kids will have some of the stuff for lunch the next day, or if they don't like the dinner so much, they'll have a little bit of the dinner from the night before, because there's always leftovers. So that helps with me. And the other thing is that I have the absolute convenience that I work from home quite a bit. So I don't have the crunch time, oh my God, everyone's home and everyone's starving thing. But what I plenty of times I have had that, having these things prepared and ready helps so much.
Right. So it sounds to me like, two of your big things are to overcook, meaning not overcook, but
to over prepare. Yes, over prepare.
Right. And then also to have like sauces ready and available for them to put on.
Yeah, just today, our son was home from college just recently, and I saw him like in the kitchen doing exactly what I hope they do. He grabbed some extra rice, he smelled it, and I was from the night before, and then we had some extra tofu cubes and some Brussels sprouts, and he heated those up in what I like to call Chef Mike, the microwave, and then he was rummaging around the fridge while it was warming up, and he found the sauce he wanted. And I had a peanut sauce, I had a lo mein noodle sauce, I had a salad dressing, and I was thinking, which one's he going to choose? And then he poured it on and put some arugula next to it, and that was his lunch.
Which one did he choose? Which sauce?
He chose a curry peanut sauce.
So you just named off about 4 or 5 like go-to dressings there. How long would you say on average it takes you to make each one of these dressings?
So Jane is really good at making the dressings.
But you make your dressing every night, and I don't know why you don't make a ton of it.
Because it takes 2 minutes, and I do it every night, and sometimes I make extra, and that's great, and I love that. But I find that I'm cooking for 2 and not for 6 like I used to. And so I don't love to cook a whole lot of sweet potatoes, because then I'm forced to eat sweet potatoes when I don't want them. And I mean, I love to have extra rice, but I tend...
And you eat everything. I mean, I come over and you guys are eating like...
I mean, we don't have... And what do you mean we're eating everything?
You'll have tonight we had 2 bushels of asparagus and a kombucha squash. And I'm like, and what else? She's like, oh no, we each had a huge kombucha squash. I mean, the size of your head. I mean, anyway,
no,
you're always eating.
But to Rip's point,
yeah,
I totally think, for instance, I think breakfast, people have to figure out the same thing and eat the same thing every day. And I think it's really nice if every member of the family knows how to make his or her own breakfast and does it.
So this almost sounds more like for people that are just getting started with this lifestyle, because right now with the game changers and everything that's going on right now, we have a lot of people that are coming on board. For people that are just getting started with this lifestyle, what's your advice?
I absolutely think you take what do you like to eat, and then you go from there, and you substitute. Let's say you love meat. All right, what are you going to do? Well, you could get a big portobello mushroom, which is very meaty, and cook and use that. What I would suggest that anybody starting not do is try and replace cheese with a fake vegan cheese or all the fake meats, because you're just getting into vegan junk food, and that's not a place to go.
So the transition things, that's
I would
positive
say
word for what we feel is a negative thing.
Drop the transition things and just go for it. And if you don't do that, you're not going to recognize the benefits of eating this way as quickly as if you just go into it and do it. But make it simple. You know, we find rice and beans is a go-to meal. And yeah, it's great to make a whole batch of beans and have leftover beans, and it's great to make a lot of rice and have leftover rice. Like sweet potatoes are terrific. Baked potatoes are great. I love pasta or any kind of pasta, but I don't like it just plain. I like it filled with kale, take a package of frozen mixed vegetables and put it in the boiling pasta so you have more vegetables than you do pasta, and then pasta sauce.
When you do that, you usually do the frozen vegetables, like 2 minutes before you take out the pasta?
Yeah, you can do that in either way. The problem with when you put frozen vegetables in, it kind of makes everything stop. So I tend to put it in, pasta takes maybe 7-8 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I think I just put the kale in kind of right, maybe a few minutes afterwards, and then the vegetables, and cook it until your pasta's done. But that's a really fantastic meal that is so quick, so easy, and everybody likes it.
Mm-hmm. Jane, what would you add to that?
Well, my head's spinning with all kinds of go-to things that are easier than we think.
Because the word that I've heard you both say repeatedly is keep it simple, right? I mean, don't overcomplicate this. Keep this as simple as possible.
And the grocery store has really helped. Like, you can get bags of salad prepared, ready to go, and you can choose to rinse that stuff off or not. It's your choice. And you asked about sauces a few minutes ago, and so I know for really quick dressing for some salad, or even a salad and a grain and a bean, I love how simple my 3-2-1 is. It's 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, 2 tablespoons of mustard, and 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. But I find if you have a really fine, one of those sort of, I hate using this word, but like those fancy designer vinegar stores, those vinegars are so they're not almost like glazes. They're really sweet. I don't need to put the maple syrup in when I use those balsamics. But that being said, 3-2-1 is so easy, and it's a great foundation. And I add hummus to it sometimes if I want a thicker dressing, or you could add horseradish or chives or pepper or garlic or whatever you want, and it will just use that foundation of 3-2-1 as a place to go from. And you can make a ton of 3 cups of balsamic, 2 cups of mustard, 1 cup of maple syrup. This is the 3-2-1 ratio for the foundation, and keep it in your fridge. And all those things stay no problem in your fridge. As you know, they're probably living in your fridge door, in the archives of the museum that is the fridge door.
Right. So let's say that you're going to pull out all the stops. You got, some special friends coming into town, and you want to wow them with eating this way. What do you like? What are maybe 2 or 3 kind of wow meals that you would make?
Oh. Well, my wow meal is rice and beans. Sorry. It's rice and beans, but it's spectacular spread out. And that's what I love, is it's an every night rip. And it also is our special meal that we have, for instance, when we have a lot of family on Christmas Eve, and we want a special dinner. And we have rice and beans. Can't wait, Rip. Rice and beans and frozen corn
but I want you to be more specific.
I am.
No, listen. You say rice and beans. What kind of rice? What kind of beans?
Brown rice, black beans, and don't be afraid to cook the black beans from scratch. It's surprisingly easy.
Dried, you mean?
Dried beans. No. But even from a can, and if you're doing it from a can, for heaven's sakes, just open the can, drain the beans under hot water, and you've got hot beans ready to go. And you can do the same thing with frozen corn. Thaw it under the water, put some of that on, chop some tomato on top, and then on top of that, you can put, oh my gosh, the best is to put fresh mango. Or Jane uses frozen. Rip, you use frozen.
No, only when it's not
but I
good
love
season.
The fresh if possible. And then if you could put, if you have guests, we would have guacamole. If it's just my husband and me, we tend not to. Or if you're trying to have someone with heart disease, no. Okay. But it's the most beautiful meal, and people are just like, woo!
And so what makes it so special is when you do it for Christmas, you have nicer plates.
Oh yeah, you just have it out looking beautiful, right?
It's so colorful, and I think that's kind of become something that what is actually further behind this is that we grew up with a lazy Susan table. So it wasn't like at the front of the table, your father served the dinner and, or your mother created dishes. The food was in the middle of the table, and it was a really democratic process. You put on your plate what you were going to eat, and this little, this internal circle of food was spun around, at your own will, and occasionally you get into little food tussles of who's going to rotate which towards themselves. But this build your own plate, I know like build your own bowl is now very trendy, but I feel like it's spot on for how we have all created our own things. So at my house, I have this lazy Susan style, build your own plate, build your own bowl, or like to be more culturally appropriate, maybe a Chipotle, build your own meal kind of things. And I love having not just rice and beans. I mean, I love rice and beans, but I've that model of build your own, I think, has been really successful in our household at a potato bar. Yukon Gold potatoes, and then you put a nest of arugula underneath it, or spinach, or whatever kind of green you want, and then add beans or barbecue mushrooms and all these different sauces. I've had such fun with sauces and salsas and spreads. They're the answer to being able to eat this way.
Totally.
And tons of vegetables. And then a sweet potato bar or a quinoa. Well, the quinoa bowl in our household, we call that the Buddha bowl. And so we have Buddha bowls sometimes. And again, sauces are the key to it for us. And I think Plant Perfect
is harder
because the sauces,
because so many of the sauces have got nuts and stuff that it's harder. But I find I like some of the really good balsamic vinegars just as much as I like the sauces. They're great. They're great, and also a mango salsa is awesome to have on top. Just amazing.
And mangoes have a certain, I'm not going to get a right food word here, but like they're viscous and they're slimy. So they're kind of saucy.
My other favorite meal,
right.
and it's which I do for guests, is I have some restuffed potatoes that I make. And I love those.
And your grandchildren love them. Your grandchildren love them.
But it takes some time to do it. And I have a tricky way to do it. So
what's so cute is like your grandchildren.
Bake the potatoes.
Okay.
I bake the potatoes.
How do you do it?
I bake the potatoes. Along with the potatoes in a parchment paper and then wrapped in tin foil, I put onion and garlic. So that bakes along with the potato. Oh. And that becomes some of the liquid to when you mash these potatoes. After you've baked them, you cut them in half, take out the potato, mash them, add the liquidy onion and garlic, and then any alternative milk and nutritional yeast.
And you put it back inside.
And then I put it back inside.
And you bake it again.
And bake it again.
And then it gets nice.
But I also add some kale. I cook some kale and mix that in. Oh. And I actually try and put kale or greens in almost everything. So along with our big row of vegetables with the rice and beans would be maybe a thing of cooked kale or a big bowl of just arugula or something some greens that you can put on.
My kids this is one of their favorite dishes that Ann makes for them, and they call it open-faced potatoes, which I love that's how they interpret it. It's just this open-faced, yummy potato, and it's beautifully baked. Everyone's going to want that recipe. Everyone's going to want that recipe now.
If you listen to season 2 of Plant Strong, you know that we are huge fans of protecting our microbiome. Just like in humans, it's not surprising that the bacteria inside a dog's gut influences his or her immune system, hormone levels, digestion, and basically every facet of their health. That's why the team at Wild Earth uses unique yeast proteins in their adult dog food specifically to feed and fortify the dog's gut bacteria. If you want more information on the human microbiome, please go visit the Season 1 episode featuring Dr. Robin Schutkan. And if you want to help improve your dog's microbiome, like I have with Jade's microbiome, visit wildearth.com and enjoy 40% off your first order if you use the code PLANTSTRONG. So when I was home for Thanksgiving, you were super excited about making some new panini sandwiches. Oh. So, Ann, what's your favorite sandwich these days? Jane, do you have a favorite sandwich too?
Well, you go first.
My favorite thing is very simple, is hummus, green onions, cilantro, or you could use parsley. And on top of that is a big slice of tomato. And then you get, what's it called?
Tempeh?
Tempeh. Just the basic original tempeh. And I slice it in pieces that are about 1/8 of an inch thick. And I put that in a frying pan. And I get liquid smoke. And in liquid smoke, if you get the right kind, only has liquid water and smoke in it. And I put a little on each piece of the tempeh. And I put it in a frying pan and just brown it on the bottom. And then put 4 little of those slices on top of the tomato. And then on top of that, you can put a whole handful of spinach or arugula or cooked kale, and top it with another slice of bread and put that in the panini and let it go. And it is so good. It's sort of like having a BLT. It has that smoky, nice taste. You liked it, Rip.
Oh, I could down 6 of those halves in 2 seconds. Jane,
So that's the latest.
No, that is the latest. Jane, what's your favorite sandwich these days?
I've been trying, just go with it, Rip. I know you don't like it, but eggplant. There's this amazing way.
I'll try and go with it.
Yes, and it's like this. It's sort of a Japanese. I can't say the proper name of it, but it has this miso mirin glazy thing baked into it, which I love. And I was so excited about it. I made it for Mom and Daddy the other day, and I over-glazed it, and it was just too much. And nothing's ever too much. But she said it's too much.
I eat everything Jane makes, but I couldn't eat that.
But because I overdid it. But anyway, and then I also am trying this with mustard and nutritional yeast, and I'm having some fun with eggplants, which is going to sound really racy, but to say, and I know you don't like eggplant, but it's fun.
I don't, unless it's cut really, really thin and it's the dickens are cooked out of it.
Yep. You'll like this.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to trying it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Now another exciting thing that I've discovered a while ago, but I still love, are the watermelon radishes. They are gorgeous. They are bright red inside, and they are fun to use in an open-faced sandwich or just anywhere in a salad.
You eat with your eyes so much, Mommy. You eat with your eyes.
Well, everybody does.
The food starts with your eyes, doesn't it? That's where it all begins.
No, it's such a beautiful. It was so sad. We had on our YouTube shoot. We were going to do our watermelon radish sandwiches. I don't even know if we posted it, but she was building up this expectation for this amazing radish, and here's this like sort of turdy looking thing that she's going to be when you cut it open. It's so beautiful.
It wasn't good.
It was a dud.
It
was a dud. It was a total dud. It was so sad.
And the outside of the watermelon radishes look like
a beet.
Brown, a little beet.
Yeah, they don't have nothing.
Okay. Some of this may be repetitive, but I just want to repeat it because I think it's so important to the way that we as Esselstyns eat. And so we eat a lot of potatoes. What would you say is your favorite topping for potatoes?
I mean, just to be simple and not have to make a sauce, hummus would be fine on top of
Jane's
potato.
got a hairball in her throat right now. So.
Pardon me.
Yeah. So, Jane, go ahead. What would you?
Well, like I said earlier about the potato bar, some of us love to have black beans or pinto beans on top. And some of us love to have the vegetables are obviously in there, like green peppers and red peppers and green onions, tomatoes, all kinds of cilantro or even basil sometimes. And in the summertime, we'll have sort of I don't know. It's like, what?
Perfectly good. Just put a little great balsamic vinegar too on top of it.
Yes, lighter vinegar.
This is, I'm just looking for like one thing that you're going to top your potato with.
Salsa. Salsa's great on potato.
See,
There.
So now.
Your favorite salsa.
Yes.
Put on barbecue sauce.
Okay. Barbecue sauce or salsa. And
then add more things if you can.
Yeah.
I would put vegetables on top if you can, or just chop parsley.
Parsley on top of your potato.
And if you're really hard up against it, hummus.
And surprisingly, potatoes are not bad plain, especially the Yukon Gold are really good.
Yeah. So sweet potatoes, pretty much the same thing. Sweet potatoes are great with lime on them, with salsa, like a pineapple salsa. And I mean, you're trying to keep it simple here, Rip.
Just black beans on top and some red peppers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we were
I
presenting.
know I could do sriracha.
Oh, you like sriracha on there.
I could just do Yukon Gold with sriracha.
But the problem is sriracha is just too hot for a lot of people.
Right.
So you have to be a Texan type.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I heard the other day, some people were we were presenting at the Cuyahoga County Board of Health with the Esselstyn Foundation, trying to educate the influencers here in our own county to go out and share this message. And this one woman said, I love this one person I work with. She always says, okay, before we have our meeting, what's your new favorite thing to eat? And she said that her friend said, my favorite new breakfast is to have a sweet potato with just spread with a thin layer of peanut butter and a kiss of lime.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, what an interesting breakfast. Sweet potato with a little bit of peanut butter and a little bit of lime. And I loved it because having citrus or having a lime, having some sort of citrus fruit with your food, with your meal, helps mobilize iron in your blood. And I was like, that's a pretty impressive breakfast.
No, what I love is that I've never heard that before. So that's something that's brand new, and it probably is for a lot of people. I want to move on to snacks. So for people that feel, well, and you probably don't snack, maybe you do these days. I don't know where you are. But for people that want to know, what do you guys snack on? What are your go-to snacks?
Okay. I'm just going to speak on snacks. And that is that I think snacks can get people into trouble, particularly if you have any kind of issue with weight. If you don't, then you need to snack. But if you do, I would say control yourself as much as you can between meals, because the problem with snacks are when do you stop? When do you stop finishing the box of crackers? So I think, to me, that is an issue. But if you're going to snack, I would say try and go to fruit and to raw vegetables. And one of the things I really love is to take hummus and mix a little balsamic vinegar with it and use that as a dip. And it's very quick and easy and so good with carrots. I especially like it with red peppers, any kind of peppers.
Okay. Jane, what do you do for snacking?
Well, we eat so much at our meals that we don't really snack that much. But I know our kids who are athletes, they are looking to snack on stuff. And I cannot say it enough, and it sounds so boring, but fruit. Mother Nature packaged these things individual serving size with just the perfect amount of sugar and water and fiber and protein and fats. I mean, a banana, individually packaged and wrapped. I mean, Mother Nature knew what she was doing. An apple, an orange, a peach, a plum.
What about?
They're perfect.
You ever make stone scones that you snack on, or is
that's more of a dessert. I mean, but those are for my kids when I was looking to find a mountain of calories for them to have, because they're working out, 4 hours a day and lifting and swimming and growing, and so that's a total different ball game. But snacking wise, I often have this sounds so 80s. Someone was so surprised that I still eat rice cakes, but I love rice cakes.
I love them too.
With hummus, or I actually like to slice up pears when they're really, really ripe and have them on rice cakes. Peaches too.
And actually, Jane, it makes me think of something that for people, instead of using jam and sugary things, put fresh fruit on toast, and it's so good.
Totally.
Yeah.
Bananas,
any
strawberries,
kind,
peaches. What about
amazing? And there's nothing.
Grapefruit
nothing.
on
Oh my God,
toast.
Rip! But there's nothing as good as a fresh peach on a piece of toast. It is unbelievable. Better than the best jam.
It has to be really crisp for you, though, right?
And
the toast.
It seems like whenever I'm home, you almost 90% of the time you have a salad, a big salad that you and Essie have for dinner. What's your go-to salad dressing that you put on there?
Their blood is made of it.
Hummus, mustard, orange, or an orange juice. If I don't always have orange juice, if you take an orange and cut out the section, squeeze the juice, and then balsamic vinegar. And I also always love to chop in some fresh ginger. I do that every night, and it takes me 3 minutes.
So Jane, you mentioned eggplant just a second ago. I'm wondering if there's any particular fruit or vegetable or whole grain or bean that you guys at some point did not like, just had no appeal to you, and now you're like, you've made a 180 and you just love it.
I don't like olives, and I don't think I want to like olives.
You don't like olives either.
No. And last time I know we talked about the 5 kitchen gadgets that you couldn't live without, but I'm just going to throw it out there again, and you can only get one. What's like the latest kitchen gadget that you're like,
I think we would have both
jazzed
agreed.
about?
The
I think it's
Tovolo.
The Tovolo?
It's this.
What in the world is a Tovolo?
I think it's the. We should be sponsored by Tovolo. We talk about it so much.
It's this tool that I don't use any of my wooden spoons, any spoons and cooking.
Or rubber spatulas.
It's kind of like a spatula.
That's the rubber.
Yeah.
It has 2 different ends.
Yeah,
One end is.
You sent me one.
Then you haven't experienced it yet?
No, I have, but not to the extent.
And you can scrape things out, and you can
one end's sort of
stir.
flexible and one end's firm.
It's great.
It's the perfect balance.
Perfect. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go through a bunch of different things, and I want you to tell me what's your favorite product. And I'd prefer if you would not say Engine 2 unless you feel like, that's the one. But
Mommy will always say Engine 2.
So, for example, what is your...
I love Engine 2 things.
I know you do. What is your favorite pizza base? If it wasn't the Engine 2 pizza crust, what would it be?
Sammy's.
Sammy's. Okay. For people who have no idea what Sammy's is.
But I don't know if they use
have
oil now.
Anyway, Sammy's
SAMI.
out of Orlando, Florida.
Oh, that was Dallas.
And it's a flax and millet crust.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite sandwich bread?
Right now,
Ezekiel
is perfect.
Dave's Killer bread is more appealing to the masses, but they've just sold to somebody and they believe they're going to use oil.
Right.
We gotta call them.
Well, it's all right. And as hopefully you listeners know, we are not a fan of oil, whether it's, following my father's program or the Engine 2 program or any program. We're not a fan of added oils for numerous reasons, which I don't want to get into right now. What about vegetable stock? You guys have a favorite vegetable stock?
I always look for a low sodium, no added sodium.
All I can tell you is read the ingredients. It is perfectly shocking that there is sugar, there is oil added, and there's a lot of sodium to so many of them, which is one reason I'm sorry, Rip, I like the Engine 2 one, but I also like Pacific makes a nice low sodium one. And then so many grocery stores carry some of their own that are fine.
All right. What about favorite hummus?
Right now, Engine 2 is the only hummus I use. Sorry.
I know there's some other ones.
Well, there's some other one here in Cleveland that you've bullied. Sahara Cuisine and Amir's.
Yeah.
They're
but they're not across the country, and that is
no. But you have. Let me just say that you've bullied 3 companies now in Northeast Ohio, or bullied 2 of them, to carrying this oil-free, tahini-free hummus. Some companies, I think. I've seen one in Colorado that just had an oil-free hummus.
Yeah, there's definitely some.
They're out there. So just ask. If people don't have it, ask.
Why? Well, why do you not make your own hummus?
Because I want life to be simple, and I get about 8 hummuses at a time, and they last forever. And
they last you about a week.
Well, they last.
Jane, you make hummus, right?
We make all kinds of stuff. Brian makes a great black bean hummus. And
I know in the Engine 2 cookbook we must have or the different cookbooks we've got probably
hot pink hummus,
12 different hummuses.
Rip, do you make your own hummus?
Every week.
You do. I'm impressed.
Wink, wink,
I'm
wink.
impressed.
Every week I pick it up at the store. Engine 2. I make my own.
Make my own hummus run. He makes his own hummus.
I think hummus, and a lot of people don't have a oil-free one available. It is very easy to make your own.
Well,
hummus.
you have to have a high-speed blender
what I like about it is you can add things you want to make it taste the way you like it to taste.
Yeah, beets, make it hot pink. You can add
You can add vinegar,
hot chilies,
or you can
and
add sriracha. I mean, you could add
Yes.
things to make it.
we have so many
So
different.
speaking of sriracha, what Ann and what Jane are your favorite hot sauces?
Sriracha with a green lid.
I don't eat it on stuff. I put it in recipes, and I use the sriracha with the green lid because that's the one we have. I also use Cholula, but sometimes I just like cayenne. Like I don't like hot sauce on my food. I like it in a recipe for what it does. It sort of kicks it into flavor land.
I like the Ninja Squirrel sriracha sauce that Derek Sarno
And Chad
made.
Or-
No, Derek made
Oh,
it.
Derek made it. Okay.
Derek made it, and it's kind of a Whole Food exclusive. Then there's this Yellowbird, right, sauce. Have you heard of Yellowbird? It's out of Austin, Texas. It's like becoming insanely popular. It's really nice.
So, Rip, I put one teaspoon of sriracha hot sauce in this amazing breakfast
Oats.
steel cut oats that I make, and it doesn't taste. It just gives it. It ups it without making it too hot. It's amazing.
So I've heard you both mention mustard several times. You have a favorite mustard that you use, or does it depend upon what you're making, what kind of mustard you're going to use?
For me, it depends on what's in the refrigerator.
Yeah, whatever's the cheapest one that month or the week.
Although Westbury, I think it's Westbury, makes a mustard that has no added salt. If somebody is interested.
But I love trying different mustards. I mean, there's so many different, like stone ground or even just bright yellow. Sometimes is what the recipe calls for. You had a Jack Daniel's mustard for a while that was a riot, and I got a moonshine mustard right now.
Did that Jack Daniel's mustard actually have some alcohol in it?
I didn't check.
Well, I think Jack Daniel's made it. Everything it had the symbol on it or the brand on it.
Jane, I know that you love pickled ginger. You're
Love it.
huge fan. What are some ways that you use it? Because I think it might surprise some people.
Oh, of course we use it in when we roll our own nori, like our own sushi medallions of rice, and it's wonderful on that. I also love using it. We have a edamame pickled ginger hummus, which is sort of like it's this beautiful hummus. We have it, the Engine 2 immersions, which are so fun. And we love the sandwich hummus day because it's like the flags of many nation on your piece of bread. You put the green edamame pickled ginger hummus, and then you put the regular hummus. And then we have what's the red one? We have like a beet hummus. Oh God, it'll come to me. But there's the green, there's the white, there's the red. It looks like the flag of France or something, flag of many nations. So it's great to have it in hummus, and I love having it on my steel cut oats with nutritional yeast in the morning with kale.
How does that sound to you, Ann? Because you kind of are the one that invented the savory
she's
steel
taught
cut
me.
oats.
She's my mentor.
I tell you,
You're my mentor.
I tell you, one of the ways that I haven't done it for a long time, but in the Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease book that my husband did, the last recipe.
Well, you did the recipes. Let me say that.
I did the recipes, but the last recipe is a recipe on maple. It's maple cookies of some kind. And I sort of based it on a Martha Stewart recipe, but it's, of course, got none of the ingredients of Martha Stewart. And so one day I thought, well, I'm going to try something else. And it's sort of a maple ginger cookie. That's what it is. So I put pickled ginger in it. And oh my gosh.
That's a nutty way.
Cookies, yeah.
Yeah. Cookies and then steel cut oats.
With pickled ginger.
So let's say you have somebody that is absolutely insists that they can't stand Brussels sprouts, but you want to figure out a way to make them love Brussels sprouts. How would you prepare Brussels sprouts?
Jane, you could give them your way.
Yeah, well, we have in our Plant Strong book Brussels sprouts with game, and we had those the other night actually. It's just Brussels sprouts with a teeny bit of maple syrup and black pepper, and then cooked with foil on top.
You cut them in half?
Yeah, if they're big, yeah. If they're little wee ones, I
think
wouldn't
it's good to
cut
cut them in half if people don't like them, probably.
I find roasting them
Roasting
totally like takes the bitterness out.
What do you roast them with?
Oh, I just spritz them with a little bit of water. Then I'll like do a little bit of salt, pepper, some red chili flakes, and then that's
I'd
it.
put
And I
balsamic
go until they're
vinegar.
brown.
I'd put balsamic vinegar on them.
Shocking.
Well, so you say shocking. So you also refer to Ann as the acid queen.
And
Why is that?
we just actually have a limited edition T-shirt out that Crile designed. It has a picture of a lemon being squeezed, and it's out of the juice, and the drop is a little drop. It says "Acid Queen," in honor of Ann and all the influence she's had on us and our food as far as her acid levels. But yeah, vinegar is your. The vinegar must come out of like your
Vinegar and
fingertips.
Vinegar and lemon and lime.
Orange.
Yeah. So I'm going to move on from Brussels sprouts and acid queen to broccoli. So there's a debate going on between you two as far as what's the best way to test if your broccoli is done. I think you guys, from what I've heard, you disagree. So Jane, what's your way of checking to see if broccoli is done? And Ann, what do you do?
I don't know.
Well, I just test it when it tastes right. No, the thing is that
When it tastes
for instance,
right.
when it tastes right.
That sounds pretty ambiguous.
I know. So I get to eat a lot of broccoli before dinner, but Jane, a lot of people like broccoli, so it's really stiff, still kind of, and
Al dente.
we like it when it's soft.
I like.
I don't mean mushy, but just that it holds together. The little florets don't mush, but that it's just, you could take a nice bite and it's just so easy to eat.
Yeah, and some people, I think it's if it's easier to eat some food, then they should cook it so it's easier to eat. Like kale, cook it till it's like defeated, flattened. You know.
Well, Rip, you
tamed.
have a way that you.
But I like to cook broccoli until it's a nice. The green goes from being like a raw vegetable green to like this beautiful verde, bright cooked green, and then if I can remember to take it off in time before the florets flatten and get overcooked, I like to do that. And my family likes it a little bit firmer than I do because I was raised under your broccoli.
Well, Jane,
you have something.
I think it's in the 7-Day Rescue.
Yeah.
And I learned this from a neighbor of mine.
Blake's broccoli.
Blake Trabalski, is that you put it in the steamer basket with the lid on there. You put it on high 10 minutes. And in 10 minutes, you take it off, you dump it on the plate, you put a little bit of salt and pepper on it, and it's this beautiful bright green color. And ideally, you put a fork through the stem and it kind of goes into it. Not like butter, but it goes through it relatively easily. And
Why would you put salt on it? That ruins it.
You know what? I do not mind a little bit of topical salt, right? I don't cook with salt, but I do a little bit of topical salt, and I don't really have a problem with it. Apparently you do.
Yeah, no, I don't have any salt at our house. It's just, I've lost my taste for salt.
Yeah.
I guess
Your taste changes,
I'm not
Rip.
as far along as you.
No, your taste changes. It does change.
No.
All right. Well, speaking of that, what's a herb or spice that you couldn't live without?
Oh, that's unfair. One?
Well, one or two, sure.
I love. They all come in such partnerships, though. Like to have.
For basil with some things, like with tomato.
You need to. Like basil, rosemary, tarragon, garlic, all together in that marinade with red peppers. You can't take one out.
What about you?
But then cumin and coriander with a little bit of chili and cayenne and cilantro. Like they're all married. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme.
Turmeric.
I was just going to say
That's what I use. That's what.
But you
that's
can't live
the
without.
little jar that and I like it not necessarily because of its taste, which I think you were asking, enhancing, because it's anti-inflammatory and it is so healthful. That is the thing that I have to replace my little jar so often and more than anything else.
I buy a big thing of oregano. I use it more than I think than most. Or garlic, I wouldn't live without.
Yeah. Jane,
Yes.
So you've got 3 kids. 2 of them are college swimmers. Your youngest is still at home, but is, one of the top high school swimmers in Ohio. Do you feel at all worried that your kids aren't getting like everything they need or all the calories they need, training 4 to 6 hours a day?
No.
Or do you feel like on a plant strong diet, they're getting everything they need?
The kids at college, I obviously don't know what they eat day to day, but I hear some things. And fortunately, Kenyon College is I've worked with them because I run a camp there in the summer. And before I ran the camp for called Well Now for Plant-Based Women Warriors, I worked with Kenyon College and their menu over the course of a year. So our daughter would write home and say, "Oh my God, Mommy, tonight they had lightning bowl. Oh my God, Mommy, tonight they had eat loaf. Oh my gosh, tonight we're having a potato bar." Like they were practicing all year long. So I know that she was in a place where they're open to working on that kind of stuff. And she was not complaining about food at all. And that she seems perfectly strong and healthy. And our son, he's having a harder time navigating food. So occasionally on my email, I see a receipt for all these little restaurants he goes to in town to keep up. But he's huge. He's 6'7", and he's trying to weigh over 175 and training hours and hours a day. So
these guys have been plant strong for the most part their whole entire life, right?
Yeah. They can make their way. They learn how to make their way, just the way that we all learn how to make our way.
And interestingly, as all these grandchildren of ours get older, they are oddly more passionate and kind of have stronger feelings
year after year
about being plant-based.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think look back to when we had Thanksgiving this year, and there were 44 of us. And the cool thing to me is that it's not just our family, right? And like all of our kids, but it's also like all of our cousins and all the relatives. It's amazing how this thing has come full swing now.
And one of the interesting things, Rip, is the parents of some of your cousins are not necessarily full-time plant-based, but their children are very strongly so.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. So a bunch of them came up and said they were listening to the Plant Strong podcast. They saw Game Changers. I mean, it's a thing. I mean, when I think about when you and Essie started this in 1984, and you were like considered complete outliers, right? Like I've heard you say that everybody in the community could have fit underneath one little, 10 by 10 tent. And today you've got one of the presidents, one of the people running for president that is vegan. You got, Eric Adams, who's running for New York City mayor, who's vegan. You've got the Game Changers that's out there. You have all these celebrities that are vegan, all these athletes that are vegan. I mean,
restaurants that are vegan,
restaurants that serve all kinds of vegan options. You can be watching, a football game on Sunday, and you see a commercial for the Impossible Burger at Burger King.
Well, no, and some stadiums I hear also have
San Francisco
vegan options in the stadium during like NFL or whatever games.
They do. And when I was at Seattle Seahawks game last year with my son, they had a whole plant-based stand there as well.
That's great.
But I mean, how excited does it make you to think how far we've come in the last 35 years since UNSC embarked on this?
No, I mean, it's amazing. And I think the internet has probably had a lot to do with it, because there was no internet when we started, and we didn't know anybody at all. So it was just figure it out, we had the same thing. And also, there's no problem about eating the same thing all the time, if that's the easiest thing for you.
Mm-hmm. But I liked how recently talking to a cousin of mine, she was saying how she likes to try to eat as just a variety of vegetables and a variety of grains. And just the variety show is really good for our microbiomes and our body and the colors. And
she tries to eat 30 different vegetables a week.
30 different colors, shapes, textures a week. And we're just now starting to learn about the microbiome and the role that it plays in not only our gut health, but our brain health and our overall health.
Yeah, you know what, Rip, that makes me think that one of the problems that we all get into is we find one thing that we like, and we just have that and have that and have that. And so this idea of trying these different things is a really good idea, so that you do get the variety and not just have broccoli every night, or not have kale the only green that you have, or not,
But you know what? Here's the thing.
But if kids only like broccoli,
Yeah.
better
You can't
give them
give 'em.
kids broccoli every night.
But like when I think about, for example, just my breakfast bowl, and I think about, okay, I usually typically have 3 or 4 different types of fruit that I throw in there, some walnuts, some ground flaxseed meal. You've got the oats, then you've got also, the toasted wheat flakes, you've got the bite-sized shredded wheat. I mean, just in my breakfast bowl, I'm probably getting 12 to 15 different varieties of, grains and grains and fruit, really, truly. Right?
Yeah.
So I think 30 is, even if you're keeping it simple,
Well,
I
don't
think you're
forget,
still
she was
probably gonna get
thinking
to 30.
30 different vegetables.
Yeah.
And not including grains.
Well, I mean, what's cool is it makes you think, okay, I'm going to have a salad, and you're not going to have like iceberg lettuce with a tomato wedge. You're going to have spring greens and maybe some
Radishes.
endive with radishes and sprouts and some pomegranate seeds and cucumber and on and on and
And
on.
one of the new things that's more easily available to people if you don't grow your own are some of the microgreens and some of the sprouted. I mean, I think that is all really valuable to try and get into your eating and into your salads.
Yeah.
And into your sandwiches. I mean, that's a great...
Into your panini.
Well, I don't know if you want... But, if you're we make a lot of open-faced sandwiches. And that's great to put those microgreens on top.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about we don't do any added oil when we cook, but what are some tips, Jane, that you would give to people that allows people to cook without using oil, for people that think they need to cook with oil? Like give some examples.
Well, just
Like let's say you're starting with, maybe you want to do a stir fry.
you don't need to use anything else instead necessarily. You just have to have heat, and you have to pay attention to the beginning thing you put in there, which is probably going to be an onion because it needs to cook a little longer, get a little translucent.
And onions are filled with water.
So they
release
release their fluid as they're cooking them. And if you start high, just turn it down to medium high once it starts to brown, and lift off some of the what looks like brown in your pan, which is actually a little bit of the sugar from the onion. Just lift it off with a little bit of water, or if you're cooking with wine or broth, add it to that. And then you have to pay attention to your vegetables. You can't walk away from them when they're sealed in oil. It's like sealing a person in sunscreen and putting them out in the sun. We're just having you pay attention to your vegetables and fruit and vegetables more like you would yourself if you were out in the sun without being coated in sunscreen.
So let's say you're doing
garlic doesn't cook by itself, so it needs a little liquid in the bottom of your pan.
or an onion in there already.
And mushrooms cook by themselves.
Okay, so what kind of liquid would you use for garlic?
Water, beer, wine, vegetable broth.
Yeah.
So Jane, let's say that we want to do the roasted Brussels sprouts. How do I do that if I'm not going to use any oil?
Oh, okay. Well, probably the way that you talked about it earlier in the podcast is you have a pan and you put a sheet of parchment paper down, because parchment paper allows things to brown without catching on fire the way that wax paper would, or without using oil, and just roast them under whatever topping you want on there. Like,
So
What
basically
degree
saying
oven, Jane, would you use?
so the thing is parchment paper.
Parchment paper is the
Parchment
answer
paper
there.
is your friend. It allows you to cook without oil.
Yes, parchment paper is my best friend these days.
Right. And then let's say you're making muffins. What do you do if you're doing muffin tins?
Well, there's a couple things you can do. There's great new silicone shaped muffin tins or pans, but they're really flexible, so you have to put them on a tray to keep them from like dribbling your muffin filling out. But there's also from certain stores, like my mom got me a great nonstick muffin tin. I think you got it from, where'd you get it from?
I got it from...
I think it may have been one of the fancy Williams-Sonoma. But anyway,
Williams-Sonoma.
it's a golden pan, and it's a nonstick pan. And it's wonderful. So I cook my muffins in a nonstick pan or in a silicone muffin wells.
Now, if people don't have that and have to cook something in, then you could put oil, spray it, and then wipe it off, all that oil off with paper towel.
Yeah. I know, like, for example, with pancakes, I have a cast iron skillet. And so I find it very difficult to do pancakes well.
That'd be hard.
You got it for pancakes and waffles. You've got to have nonstick.
Well, I understand, but if you have cast iron, right? What I find is I can use just a little bit of some sort of a spray, and then I wipe it down with a
paper towel.
With a little bit of a paper towel. And then that first pancake, that's the only time I use it. And then after that, I don't have to use any more oil typically.
Oh,
which is nice.
That's an amazing testament to how little a surface you need to have that protective layer of oil for it to not stick.
Yeah.
And no oil sounds like such a huge barrier to so many people. And it makes such a difference overall once you've gotten used to been able to do it.
Well, you guys, I want you to know that, so season 2 of the podcast, it's really about people who are changing the game, who are just blazing kind of new trails, people who they have the heart of a hero. And you guys are doing amazing things. Jane, all the work that you're doing, the events that you're throwing, your Instagram channel, your YouTube channel, and you and Essie going back to 1984, before this was even a thing, and nobody even knew that, what kind of impact this would have. It was just kind of an experiment. And now, 35 years later, we know that this is the best way on the planet to not only prevent but also reverse, major chronic Western diseases. Before I leave, is there anything else that you guys want to add about anything?
Well, I would say that the most amazing thing, Rip, is what you have done, where you have picked up and developed this and made something huge. You've offered the food that people can eat to feel safe. You taught them how to do it, where to buy it. And then you've offered them these amazing immersions where they can go and live it and believe it and know it and feel it and come out ahead.
A friend of mine said, Rip has been a genius. And I was like, what do you mean? She said, Rip took your dad's message, which was sort of clinical and dry, and he somehow made this message about eating only plants. It's like sexy. And I was like, I'm glad you see it that way. All right.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful to have...
Now, Rip,
a mother and a sister.
You need to keep this part in.
Which part?
No cutting out what we say about you.
Let me just... Well, with that, we got to wrap it up the way we always wrap it up. And that is, if you guys could give me one of your hands. Peace. Engine 2. Keep it playing strong.
Strong.
All right. Thanks. See you guys soon.
Thank you.
What can I say? Jane and Ann are an absolute hoot. They make eating plans strong delicious, simple, fun, and creative, and they do it in a way that is educational and beyond entertaining. If you want a front row seat to see Jane and Ann in the flesh, I would encourage you to come to one of our retreats in 2020. Our June retreat is filled up, and we still have availability for our September or October events. Our September retreat will be on the pristine shores of Lake George in upstate New York in the Adirondack region. Its theme is taken from the podcast this year, The Heart of a Hero, and this will be a little bit more playful in nature as opposed to lecture heavy, and we will be doing a fair amount of hiking, of swimming, yoga, sailing, kayaking, canoeing, archery, shuffleboard, It is going to be a ton of fun. Our October event will take place in beautiful Sedona, Arizona, and this will focus on helping you level up in your understanding and application of the Plant Strong lifestyle. I would encourage you to come and spend a week with us. You will not regret it. Please visit plantstrong.com and click on events. My mother and sister truly do have the hearts of a hero, and I'm so insanely proud to be a part of a family that is this passionate about health and vitality. If you can't get enough of these two, we're going to share their YouTube channel in the show notes and on our website at plantstrongpodcast.com. Next week, he's back. One of your favorites and mine, Dr. Michael Clapper, returns to the Plant Strong podcast to discuss why every bite counts. I want to thank all of you who take the time to subscribe, listen, rate, and review us. We appreciate it. Thank you for listening and subscribing to our show. I want you to know that we read each and every one of your reviews, and we appreciate each and every one. If you want to learn more about this season or today's guests and sponsors, please visit plantstrongpodcast.com. The Plant Strong podcast team includes Scott Badisil, Lori Kordowich, Amy Mackey, Patrick Gavin, Wade Clark, and Carrie Barrett. I want to thank my parents, Dr. Caldwell B. Esselstyn Jr. and Ann Crile Esselstyn, for creating a legacy that will be carried on for generations and being willing to go against the current and trudge upstream to the causation. We are all better for it.